I am Isha Hansfal and this is WION World of Cricket. Now the Ikana Stadium in Lucknow is witnessing two heavyweights in world cricket. South Africa post a first innings score of 318 for the loss of 7 wickets. 318, I'll get the figures correctly because it was the last ball being played and I missed out on that one. Well, that is for the loss of 7 wickets. In their 50 overs, the Proteas have just won an ODI series 3-2 last month against the Aussies. Not to forget, they made a World Cup record of 428 in their last game against Sri Lanka. One of the contributors to that mammoth total, Quinton De Kock, weaves his magic again with the bat with his 109 of 106. Aiden Markram with his gritty half-century, definitely worthy mention. The way he puts up those runs. Glenn Maxwell does it for Team Australia with those scalps of De Kock and South African skipper Temba Bavuma. And Adam Zampa, the lone true spinner in the Aussie lineup, albeit his scalp of Van der Dusen perhaps still not coming to the party as we'd expect him to. Australia towards the end, Captain Cummins with that all-important wicket of Markram and Josh Hazlewood takes another power hitter, Klassen. Dav, with that score of 310 plus, I'm not really sure of the number there. How do you read all of this? Is this what we were expecting? It's 311, I guess.
Well, if you're a South African, 311 is the total. That's right for 7. If you're a South African supporter, you'd be pretty happy. But what I was seeing was a very unusual Australian team and an effort out there. Yes, there were some unlucky pieces of play, that ball flying over the keeper's head. But I tell you what, they almost look disinterested. They're just not, their fielding, which is normally of a very high standard, is rated the worst in this competition. And reflected in those drop catches today, it was just inexcusable, really, and it's almost they don't deserve to win on that performance. Too
soon to say, Nikhil, but as Dav was making another very important point the other day, you miss the catches, you might lose a game.
Yeah.
Do we see a similar thing happening today as well?
Definitely. I think as Dav and I were watching the second last over, Dav was like, this is un-Australian, like you cannot do that. They dropped a lot of catches. Temba Bavuma was given 3 lives and then they dropped some dollies towards the end. I think it was a good pitch to bat on, 280, 300. That's what Dav and I predicted in the beginning. But they scored 320 because Aussies gave it too many easy runs and that is going to be their downfall.
Well, they're going to have to really pull the, do something really different than when they bat, because they've got to make up for some really bad cricket, Isha, and I know that they'll be hurting in that half-time break. And 1 or 2 of them are going to have to make up for their bad performances. Just like Rachin Ravindra when he bowled that rubbish and he came back and got a big 100, didn't he? So there has to be 1 or 2 more of those performances in that second half to make up for 1 or 2 of them.
So who is that game changer for you from the Australian squad?
Well, I don't know. I just feel that whoever gets a chance has to go on here. For all the talk of the wicket that we had before the game, because it's a brand new relayed surface, it played pretty well. Australia won the toss and they bowled because they weren't sure of what it would behave like. So it did okay, and I just wonder if, depending on the dew, whether it'll be a little easier in the second half. We'll know later on, but I'll tell you what, 311's on the board and they have to get it.
Dav definitely disappointed there. Glenn Maxwell joined the party a little bit, we'd say.
As we can see the scoreboard on the screen, Glenn Maxwell, I mean, no disrespect to him, he shouldn't be your leading wicket taker. He's an all-rounder, he can bowl his arm around, but Adam Zampa, as you said, needs to come to the party. He gave a 70 run and 1 wicket. I mean, that's not the expectation from Adam Zampa. And Josh Hazlewood, Mitchell Starc, I mean, they went for runs as well. And Quinton De Kock, and as Isha mentioned in the beginning, back-to-back hundreds. I think he is having a World Cup. He's going to retire after this World Cup, but he has lit up this World Cup, no doubt about that. And Aiden Markram scoring that 56. I think he could have gone on and made a 70-80. That would have taken the match totally out of Australia's reach. But a good batting performance there by
Nikhil, that's the only batsman to go back-to-back hundreds in this. We had a number of century makers.
Right.
But he's the only one to go back-to-back 100.
So
that's a wonderful effort by De Kock. But just on Glenn Maxwell, 2 for 34, wonderful figures. almost a supporting role, but he's becoming more of a reliable 10-over bowler.
Yeah.
You know, over the years he's risen up to getting his full quota. You know, it wasn't all that long ago. He was only bowling half a dozen, maybe 5, 6, 7 supporting, but now he's bowling his full 10, and you know, he's quite rightly claiming to be a decent all-rounder, but the number one spinner is the worry at the moment, Nikhil, right, Anisha? Yeah. He is the worry because, you know, you expect him to do a little bit better. If you're not taking wickets, fine, but you've got to keep the pressure on, which means that the runs conceded should be lower, but it's not, sadly.
So, Dav, what is the problem here? You know, sure, we spoke about the fielding, which we did not expect to be so bad as you pointed out in the first innings. We can say Australia realised in their game against India that probably a third spinner was missing. What do you think, where do you think they're going to ail the most as they go into the second innings?
Well, second innings, right. Yeah. Well, the second innings they have to bat properly, right? So it's incumbent on their top order to absolutely, whoever gets a start, you know, depending on whose day it is or whose night it is, they have to make take the maximum out of it. You cannot just leave it to the next person. It's hard enough to get a start sometimes, but when you do get a start, that's when you have to take maximum out of it. Because one thing is for sure, we can all guarantee, I can guarantee, every batsman will fail. They will fail at some point, but it's when it's your turn and you get a start, that's when you have to make a lot of runs, because that's what gets your average up, because everyone fails. So, you know, when you have an opportunity to score, you've got to make sure you do it. So there'll be, I mean, in partnerships today, there was 100 partnership, there was 250 partnerships. Right. So that was pretty good, you know. So Australia have to match that at least if they want to finish the game with the points.
So do you think that a third spinner missing there on this particular wicket is not too much of a worry, as they should concentrate on putting up those runs first up, making sure they're able to chase it?
Well, a third spinner would be handy if, knowing that Zampa's not doing the business at the moment, and the medium pacers are pretty good. You know, 3 or 4 of those quick bowlers are pretty decent, really. So you would want that one spinner to actually give you some wickets, the number one spinner. So whether they play if they had an option to play a third spinner, would they play a third spinner? I'm not sure they would. However,
that's an interesting point.
Yeah, he may, though, take the place of a Zampa.
Oh, okay. Again, why would you not go for a third spinner on this particular wicket?
Well, because of the quality of the pace bowlers, maybe, you know, and the uncertainty when the toss was happening, whether you would play a third spinner. South Africa, in fact, have got 2 themselves, haven't they? Maharaj and Tabrez, Shamsi. Aiden Markram can bowl a little bit, so I guess they've got a third option should they wish to use him.
Even if you got a spinner as good a quality as the pacers that they have, would you still not play a third spinner?
I mean, first of all, I think Australia coming to for the World Cup with just one spinner, I think, because Ashton Agar was injured, so they drafted in Marnus Labuschagne. So they don't have any option. They have to stick with Zampa. Even if he doesn't have a great game, you need to just hope that he comes to the party. But it looks very difficult for them. But I think the batting needs to, you know, make up for those bad fielding and Zampa going for 70. I think Steven Smith and Marnus Labuschagne are due for a big innings. I think they are my players to watch out for in the Australian innings.
In the wicket, in the you know, your squads that you come up with, Dav, your playing 11 are pretty much in line with what we see right before the game. You had opted for Inglis in their previous game as well. Still pinning your hopes on him?
Yeah, well, Josh Inglis has impressed a lot of good judges. Certainly the selectors, and they're the main ones you have to impress to get selected. So you know, he's a good player, and so's Alex Carey. Sadly, he's not playing. He's a lefty, but unfortunately, he's not selected today. So it's you know, he gets a chance, Josh, and Inglis has to try and take that opportunity when he gets it. I know he'll be trying, but let's see what happens.
But Isha, Dav wasn't very happy when English dropped that catch, and he was like, why is he smiling after dropping a catch?
Oh, yeah, but there was a couple of
That's
responses.
a strict coach.
No, there was a couple of responses I didn't like, you know. Like, when you drop a catch and you come up smiling about it, what does that say, you know?
Nikhil, we have to be very careful about when we're smiling, at least in the show.
Isha, you said the stat was wrong, and you smiled after that.
With that wicket keeper, though, you know, you're so close to the edge when it happens that I'm a little sympathetic, because the deflection happened and the ball comes so quickly. It's almost pot luck if it hits the glove in the right time, but I'm not sure he even hit the glove, did it? I think he hit his leg.
Yeah, he couldn't react, so it hit.
Yeah, but still in awe. I mean, you know, it's not a laughable matter, I don't think, you know.
Yeah.
Particularly with all these cameras there, you got to be a little careful with your body language.
Maybe perhaps taking the aggression a notch too down, the Aussies there.
Well, I don't know, but, you know, there's another catch gone down now. It's Stark. He gets both hands to it, drops it, and then the camera's on his face, and he starts smiling.
Maybe he's laughing on himself. They're like, oh, I've dropped the dolly.
It's not on, you know. I mean, first thing I'd say, if it was me, sorry.
Yeah.
Not bloody smiling, I tell you.
Yeah, that's a strict coach. Okay, Dav, very quickly, towards the end of the innings, we saw sort of a bit of a turn of things when we saw Cummins take that wicket, Josh Hazlewood suddenly coming in and taking another one. Do we see more of the skipper coming into form, and of course Josh Hazlewood also, because up until then Glenn Maxwell was their star performer in the bowling department, and then these two come towards the end and make things a little interesting than what we were seeing. We were probably thinking this to go to 325, if not 311.
Well, I was thinking at one stage 320, but they still restricted him to 311. But Pat Cummins, I thought he tried really hard, you know, and there was that one over, was 2 catches went down, plus a third one that went over the keeper's head. You know, so I felt really sorry for him. And, okay, if you think this Mitchell Stark catch was difficult, it shouldn't be, then what do you say about Stoinis? He just didn't have to move. He just had to put his hand there and he dropped it. You know, like, that is schoolboy errors. You know, you cannot do this and expect to win matches. Now, they're going to have to really make up for that if they want to have the points. Okay.
I sincerely hope somebody from the squads or the teams is listening to this. Dav, also talk to us about the replacement of Quinton by Shamsi. Do you think it was a good move?
Well, before the game, I thought they would keep their 4 fast bowlers, and they would, if by playing the spinner, I'm sure he would have preferred a dry ball. So there was a little hope there, you know, that he would bowl in the first half to hold that dry ball, but he can't because they lost the toss. But he's a good player, you know. He's no question. If he lands the ball consistently, he's going to be a little tricky to find because he's got those variations, and you've got to watch carefully to see which way that ball's spinning. So it could be a good move, but me personally, I would have kept the 4 pacemen.
Good point. Well, we also have this segment called No More with What More, and make sure you're very careful about the comments you're posting and the questions you're asking, because we have a strickler here with us in our studios. Dav, what more? Nikhil, you want to read out some of those comments?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are agreeing with Dav. You know, Akshat says this, trying to remember the last time Australia made this many mistakes in the field. They looked like they are at the end of a long campaign rather than a team in the second match of the World Cup. Totally, I think Akshat is totally agreeing with you.
Well, that's good. Good judge.
And not just Akshat, even Mahir says 2 drop catches in a single over. Every run counts when it's over 300. Also, when it's followed by a 6 like that, hope this luck doesn't follow the Aussies into their chase.
Is this somewhat of a repetition of what we saw between the two teams last month? The ODI series that South Africa won. They have come into this tournament with confidence, defeated Australia over the last couple of months, in the T20 format also, if I'm not mistaken.
Difficult to say, Ishal. I mean, I didn't follow it carefully, but and there wasn't a full team anyway, the full squad. But suffice to say that whoever Australia puts on the field are pretty decent players. So to be 2 up and then get beaten 3-2 cannot be a good sign. You know, regardless of who takes the field.
And also the same 3 power hitters, Markram, De Kock and Van der Dusen, they were very impressive in the ODI series against the men from down under.
And Klaassen too.
Yes, and Klaassen too.
Yeah, so, you know, it's okay, you know, to get beaten 3-2, you won, you know, but when you follow it up with performances like this, then it becomes a real worry, you know, that's what I'm thinking. But let's hope they can turn that around for their sake and make this tournament even more exciting.
And Isha, we have a viewer watching from the flight. Guess who is? Sports editor Digvijay Singhdeo. He says, about to take off, watching from the flight, Australia need Warner Marsh to get off to a flyer. He's going to Ahmedabad for the India-Pakistan match.
While he's flying.
We need them to get off to a Digvijay flyer as well.
So Warner Marsh, I think Digvijay
Yeah, no, that's true. He's right. I mean, it's always good when you get an opening partnership that can create a bit of a platform, put the pressure back on the opposition early.
Do you, however, still think there is more pressure on Warner, given how he has always come true for the team time and again?
Perhaps. You know, he needs to get over that little initial period of vulnerability, of get that little nick that he tends to get out to when he does, and he gets out early. But yeah, he's been of recent form. He's been pretty good. So I don't know whether he'll take, you know, extra pressure on that ish. You know, he'll just go out and do his job. He's a professional. He'll do his, you know, as good a job as he can possibly do.
Did we also conduct a poll on the South African batting lineup? If you know, if these are the best batsmen that we have.
Yeah.
If we didn't, we should, because you know,
we have got our viewers covered. So the question was, so there were a few of the polls. The first one, has South Africa got enough on the board versus Australia? 57.6% feel yes, they have got enough on the board, while 42.4% are still saying that the Aussies could come back.
What do you reckon, Dav?
Me, yeah, look, I think the indications are that it's just not happening for them. And it could very well be that will continue in that second half. I'm hoping for a really good finish, but I have my doubts. You know, they've gone into this break on a downer, a negative. And South Africa have gone into the break on a high. So generally what happens when you restart, the team that goes off on a high starts off on a high. So that trend can be broken. Let's wait and see.
South Africa have, I beg your pardon, Australia have long known to be a team that has a lot of confidence. The point that you just made about getting into the second innings with confidence, I would perhaps think that not being the case too much with the Aussies, because they have displayed time and again that confidence is something they can muster very easily. So if there was one magician that you had to pick out in that lineup, you know, who could turn things around, like really turn things around, a magical spell, other than Warner, who do you expect to rise to the occasion?
You know, I think Smith, Steve Smith, he's focused at the moment, and I know that he's an out-and-out performer for his country, Australia. He bleeds green and gold, and I can see it in his eyes that he's pretty focused for this tournament. So I'm expecting him. Yeah, if he gets a start, I think he can go all the way. Yeah.
Nikhil, you have more comments?
Yeah, we have more comments, and an interesting stat that's there on the broadcast. It says Kagiso Rabada has never dismissed David Warner. David Warner scored 185 runs against him, and he has never dismissed. So I think there's a good matchup there. We have more comments. Naman says this has to be the most un-Australian performance in a World Cup for Aussies. Poor fielding. I think we all in agreement with that. Yeah. Nishant asked Dav, he says that did Australia really bowl well, or South Africa couldn't accelerate? I think they did towards the end. Yeah, no,
they tried pretty hard, and they've got the ball in the right areas a little bit more often than not. And they got their reward, but they could have gotten more wickets if they'd done the right thing in the field.
Yeah, we have one more. Will the poor fielding cost Australia the match? This was the poll conducted. and 80.8% say yes.
Every chance.
Every chance.
It'll come back to bite them.
But I think, as you said, the momentum, they don't have the momentum, but they would be kicking themselves in the dressing room. And can they channel that frustration into, you know, something nice, something great on the pitch? Say, hang on, we didn't have a great day in the fielding, but let's go out and, you know, give ourselves a chance.
We created this mess ourselves. We're going to fix it up ourselves. That sort of thing, you know.
Dab, if you are in the dressing room right now, what would you be telling them?
Well, what's important is that there's a job to be done. There's runs to be made.
Yeah.
No point going over reviewing that first half. That I'm sure the players would be. They'll be upset themselves. You don't need to, you know, state the obvious.
Yeah.
All that stuff can be done later, but you know, and you've got to be careful how you communicate that. But what's important now is to ensure that, you know, the boys are ready to get 312. That's what counts. So all the talk should be directed into that. And a good dinner.
Yeah, good dinner. That's the key point there. Yatin asks, can Australia...
Amazing food in Lucknow.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of viewers watching from Africa. Georgeston Wilson says, hey guys, I'm watching from Wilson Paradise, Liberia, West Africa. Hi Georgeston. Felix says, watching from Teguig City. And there's another question for you, Dab. Yatin asks, can Australia chase this total?
Yes, the short answer is yes, but they're going to have to bat out of their skins to do it. Because this South African bowling attack is pretty good.
Yeah.
And the few who were questioning the captaincy of Pat Cummins. Shrey says, when was... Pat Cummins, he has no answers when Australia are under the pump. Steve Smith was the better candidate for captaincy always. He has just captained Australia in 4 ODIs. Is that something that's working against him?
Maybe, but he's got the full support and the respect of everybody else in that team. I don't think that's a huge thing. He'd always get, you know, good information from his mates, Steve Smith, who he plays cricket with in New South Wales. And a number of other guys who always, you know, are not backward in coming forward in offering advice, yeah.
Dab, did you expect this from Team Australia coming into the tournament? I know it's too soon to ask this question. We should at least be a couple of more matches down. But then, is this the form that you expected them to display right at the very beginning of the event?
No, I didn't. I mean, take care to, you know, matches are won and lost. There's no question. There's no problem.
Course. But how you lose them?
Yeah, it's how you... how you lose. And I'm not saying they're going to lose today either.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's how you play the game. You know, to win a game, you've got to try and be, you know, giving good contributions in all these areas. Bowling and fielding is so important. You know, as we've seen, these catches that were dropped. I'm not sure if anybody got 100 after they dropped a catch, but it certainly was the case last night. And in Australia's first game, you know, they dropped Virat Kohli.
Virat Kohli, yes.
On 19.
Yes, you
mentioned that. And he gets another 70 odd, you know, he gets an 80 something, didn't he? And that, more important, the timing of that drop catch. It would have been 4 for very little.
Yeah.
So, you know, you just can't do these things and expect to win.
So fielding is the one area that they really have to concentrate more than anything else.
Well, fielding is important, but you know, I just need people to understand it is very important. You just don't take it for granted. You know, 11 guys walk on the field, only one can bowl at a time. The keeper has to, potentially is in the game every ball, but everyone else has to support the bowler. You can't just expect him just to get a LBW or a ball all the time. They need the support of the fielders to ensure that, you know, their bowling performance is a good one. Yeah.
But Isha, how have tables turned? I remember that World Cup match where Harshal Gibbs dropped Steve Waugh's catch and he said, mate, you have dropped the World Cup. Are we saying that to the... is this South African team saying that to the Australia?
We'll get even now. Pick a fielder, then you can... They all drop catches.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm watching this game, I'm really awaiting the India-South Africa fixture because I think that is going to be a very interesting one. I would love to watch Australia perhaps go up against Pakistan. That should be a good watch.
And New Zealand, but the big blockbusters busters on Saturday.
That's on Saturday.
That's the big one. That
yeah, we've been
everyone's
talking
waiting
about that at length, and in fact, we will talk a lot more about that also. But I think for now, we should perhaps get back to the match and see what unfolds there.
Yep.
And we will join you very soon in the post-match analysis of the game as well. Dab will be here with me, reviewing your comments, answering to your questions, and then make sure you send in some very good comments and very good questions across, because he is a tough, hard taskmaster. Thank you so much. We'll join you pretty soon.